Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel and welcome to another video, and especially on our next journey when we talk about Linux. And specifically, we're going to focus on, again, package management. But more importantly now, you're going to look at the evolution of where we went from before. And if you're asking where we were before, you should be watching my previous videos because it'll show you where we started. In the previous video, talked all about RPM. That's where we started. Now the next evolution is going to be what's called the Yum Package Manager. So this video is going to be all about learning Yum and how we use Yum in order to manage packages on our RHEL box. And of course, I have RHEL 8 here. And in a later video, I'll even tell you another cool little trick that is happening whenever you're doing Yum. But for now, just know that we're going to focus on Yum Package Manager. So without making this too long, real quick housekeeping items. If you like my videos and they're helping you guys out a lot, make sure you go ahead and give me a like for the video as it helps the channel grow. Subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications so that way you're notified when I upload new videos to the channel. And lastly, of course, share this with a family member or friend who's interested in learning tech, and especially those who may never heard of Linux before, because this is a critical skill, especially not only in engineering, but also in the technology space. And as always, guys, if you're interested in talking with me, links to my calendar will be below. So go ahead and hit the link, put some time on my calendar, and we can talk all there is to know about tech. So I look forward to seeing you guys there. All right, so housekeeping items out of the way. Let's jump onto our desktop here. And of course, we have our RHEL box. So the first thing that we're gonna do, and let's take a quick peek at what we have here under activities. And I'm gonna click now the show applications button. So real quick, let me get my face out of the way here. You guys see that right there? It says show applications. We're gonna go ahead and click that one, and you'll see all the applications come up. So let me go ahead and put my face back here in the corner again so we can get that out of the way. But as you're seeing here, there's not a lot of applications, right? Very bare bones. And in the last video, I was showing you guys how we can install LibreOffice in order to be able to have an office suite in this particular virtual machine. So we're going to build on that concept today, except the really cool thing is we're going to be using Yum as that package manager in order to help us out with a lot of the things that you were seeing before that is difficult, such as dependency management. And by the way, if you don't know what I'm speaking about, again, I said this earlier in the video, make sure you check out the previous video because we talk all about dependency management and why Yum really was created, or one of the reasons why it was created. Now, real quick, I'll give you guys a disclaimer. Some of the things that we're going to be working on requires that you actually go ahead and register your RHEL box here. And later on in a couple of videos when we're working with repositories, it is very important that those repositories are enabled by registering your RHEL virtual machine, or maybe you actually have RHEL running on bare metal. Whatever that looks like, RHEL needs to be registered. And I showed you guys how to get a free copy of RHEL when we first started this series. So if you're finding me for the first time and you're having issues with working with repositories, then again, it'll be later on in the video, or maybe with package managers, you have to make sure that your RHEL box is registered. That disclaimer aside now, let's go ahead and learn about Yum. So the first question now is what does Yum stand for? And Yum stands for Yellow Dog Updater Modified. And so the idea of this is it's a piece of software that was created in order to help us with package management, because while RPM is a phenomenal tool and it's a low-level tool, it starts to get very complex, as you were starting to see in the previous video. And we needed a better way in order to help us manage these packages, because this is something that we're going to do quite heavily, especially when you're a system administrator or you're just even working with the operating system. Let's run through a couple of these commands in order to just play with Yum, see what it does. And I'll walk you guys through that whole entire process. And we can even talk about how we were able to install LibreOffice with RPM before, but this time we'll do an example in Yum. So without further ado, let's jump into the terminal now. And the first thing that we're going to do is do Yum and do -- version. And you can actually see what version of Yum you have installed. And by the way, guys, I couldn't hide it any further, but we will learn about DNF. And DNF, if you don't know, is the latest and greatest package manager. And it's funny because when you are doing a Yum here and it's showing you, hey, DNF, which is going to be my next video, why is that? Well, spoiler alert for my next video, because I can't hide it, especially in RHEL 8. And we'll talk about that in a second. But if I were to do a man yum to take a look at the manual for yum, you can see here that it says yum is redirecting to the DNF command reference. So essentially what it's telling you is that starting in rel 8, we actually transitioned between yum, which was the old package manager, to DNF, which is now the new package manager. So essentially when you are calling yum, it is linked to DNF. You're really running DNF. So again, I try to hide it and try to let you know that yum was the next level of package management, which it really was at the time for older versions of Red Hat Enterprise Linux. But since I'm running rel 8, you have to address the elephant in the room. Anyway, so now you know a little bit about that history. So let's continue learning about yum and all the really cool things that you can do with it. And the next item on the list is we're going to use yum in order to be able to search for packages. Now, the really cool thing about this is that you are going to be searching the repositories. And a quick note about that, in order to be able to search your repositories, your Red Hat Enterprise Linux has to be registered. Now, I showed you guys way in the beginning when we started this Linux series on how to go ahead and register your RHEL machine. So if you haven't done that, you should really go back to the videos and catch up on those things, because this is very important now. And I've said this previously, we build on previous concepts. So since we registered our machine in the past, we shouldn't have any issues with searching for packages in repositories. Now, if you've never done that, you'll probably receive an error when you're going to use the search command. So in order to go ahead and search now, we can do a sudo yum followed by search. How hard is that? And we go ahead now and search for a package. And in our particular case, let's say I'm interested in finding the Python package. So I'll go ahead and name Python as the package that I'm looking for. And let's see what we get. All right, so it looks like we have a lot of things that came to our screen. So what I'd like to do is run the same command, but this time I want to go ahead and pipe it into a less so I can control the output. And by the way, you're even seeing here on the command that it's showing in purple all the different packages for Python, which is kind of interesting. Or should I say all the hits that it found for the word Python. So here we are. These are all the hits when it comes to the word Python, and it tells you the name and the summary matched, right? So you can kind of go down the list here and see all the different packages that are available in repositories that have anything to do with the word Python. So that's a really cool and easy way to search for things. So let's quit out of here. Now let's say, for example, we were using the search feature and we found a package, but we want to find out a little bit more information about that package. We can go ahead and use the sudo to elevate our privileges, yum, followed by info, and then we give it the package. So in this particular case, we had a bunch of packages that we found for Python. So I'm going to go ahead and copy one of these here. Let's go with this guy right here, waf.noarg. So copy and paste, and let's go ahead and see what this command brings up for us. So as you can see here, it tells us the available package. It tells us the name, the version number, the release, the architecture, all kinds of really cool information about this particular package. And it even goes into a little bit of a description of what it is. And it says it's a Python-based framework for configuring, compiling, and installing applications. So it's a really cool way to search for additional information on a particular package. Now let's talk about one of the most important things, as you are seeing in previous videos with RPM, is installing and removing packages. And one of the things that I want to go ahead and do is utilize the same example that we had last time, which is using our LibreOffice packages and installing that using yum. So I'm going to go ahead and cd into our home directory. And if memory serves me correctly from our previous video, we were in the downloads directory. And of course, there is our LibreOffice directory. So let's head into there. And by the way, if you guys are wondering how I even have a LibreOffice directory and how I got my packages in here, that was covered in the previous video, as I mentioned. So if we look inside, we have our LibreOffice directory, and that's 25811. So let's take a look in here. And of course, we're going to head into the RPMs directory. So let's take a look inside. And of course, we have all kinds of RPM packages. Now, the interesting thing is I can go ahead and do a sudo yum install and followed by the package name. And so in this particular case, I want to install all the packages. So therefore, I can go ahead and do a wildcard and say, hey, I want to install all the packages that end with .rpm. And of course, we're in this specific LibreOffice directory. So essentially, it's saying, hey, install all the packages within this directory. Pretty cool. So let's go ahead and hit enter on this and see what we get. And it tells us that it's going to install the following packages. So you're seeing here that it's going to be LibreOffice 25.8, and you see all kinds of stuff that goes along with it, base, calc, so on and so forth. And of course, as I showed you guys before, and we'll take a quick brief look at it, there is no LibreOffice packages that I have here. As you see, there's really nothing here. So let's go back to our terminal and let's hit yes. And by the way, guys, if you want to skip this question that comes here and you don't want it to ask you for anything, and this is especially useful when you are creating scripts, meaning automated deployment of things, we can actually do this neat little trick. And let me actually close out of here and we'll say no. So that way you can see this nifty little trick. So same command as before, except this time we're going to do a -y. And a -y means say yes for everything and don't bother asking me, just go ahead and do it. And so if we hit enter here, you'll see that it'll automatically go ahead and start installing everything because I'm saying yes to everything with that -y flag. So that's also pretty cool. All right, and just like that, it was done. So if I go ahead and go under activities now and go to our show applications, and again, I removed my face so you can see what I was clicking before. But you're starting to see now that LibreOffice is installed. And if I were to go ahead and launch the application here, this is what it looks like, which is really cool. We were able to install it just by doing that one little simple command there. And as you can see, I can go ahead and let's say, for example, I want to do Excel, which is Microsoft version, but here it's called Calc. So we can go ahead and click Calc, and you can see here that here are your Excel spreadsheet in a sense. You can go ahead and start doing your formulas and all kinds of good stuff. Pretty cool. All right, so let's go ahead and close out of this. So File, Exit, LibreOffice. So now you saw how I was able to quickly install all the packages for LibreOffice, which is really cool. Now I want to show you guys something that is very awesome, and this is one of the biggest features for Yum, especially when managing packages. And you saw this headache that I had before when we were working with RPM. And that is, of course, dependency management. So when we want to go ahead and remove packages, and by the way, you saw that it already handled dependencies when it was doing the installation. But when we are removing packages now, we don't have to go ahead and one by one resolve dependencies. If I want to remove LibreOffice, I can go ahead and just put in that command and it'll handle all those dependencies for us. And we don't have to sit there managing dependencies all day. So a huge time saver and a huge benefit of Yum. So we can go ahead and do a sudo yum remove followed by the package name. So in this case, I'm going to say LibreOffice 25.825, this good package right here. So copy and paste. Let's go ahead and hit enter and see what we get. So it tells you, hey, I'm getting ready to remove LibreOffice 25.8. And by the way, there are packages that are dependent for that particular package. And you're seeing here base, calc, so on and so forth. And so it's going to remove 11 packages. So I can hit yes over here in order to continue that process, or I can stop this as you saw before, give it a -y, and it won't ask me and it'll just go ahead and do it. But since we're already here, let's just do a Y for yes. And as you're seeing, it's going ahead and removing all those packages in real time, and it does it very, very quickly for us and handles the dependencies so we don't have to do that work ourselves. So if I were to go back to now activities and show applications, well, what do you know? Our LibreOffice suite is completely gone and I didn't have to sit here all day managing dependencies. How awesome is that? All right, so next item on the list, how do we go ahead and look at all the available updates that is available to this particular Red Hat Enterprise Linux machine? And you can use Yum in order to look for that. So we can do a sudo yum update. And the really cool thing is update shows us what updates are available. And it's going to ask us whether we want to continue with a yes or whether we don't want to continue by hitting no. And of course, as always, as I showed you before, the -y also applies here. So this is a really cool way to say, hey, update my entire system And don't even bother asking me, just do it. But of course, we always check before we hit yes to see what we are updating. So I'm going to remove this and just hit enter. And we're going to see what we get for updates that are specifically for this particular machine. And as you can see here, there are 688 packages that need to be upgraded, or 1.8 gigs in size, which is crazy because that means we have a lot of outdated packages right now. And you're seeing here we have Podman, Python 3. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on. All kinds of packages that need to get updated. So it's been a while since this machine has been updated. And of course, as I told you before, it says, is this okay? Yes or no? We'll go ahead and hit no for now, and we'll leave it as is, but you can give it that Y flag and it will go ahead and update the entire system for you. And it's pretty seamless. Now, I'll save you guys the headache of watching paint dry by hitting yes and of course waiting for my system to update. But just know on your end, you can hit a Y and it'll update all the packages on your particular machine. Now, one other command that I want to show you guys real quickly is if we were to do sudo yum upgrade, and let's run that command and see what you get. Now, interestingly enough, if you look at upgrade says it's 1.8 gigs in size, and it's still the same packages, right? 688, which is quite interesting. So now the question is, well, why are we having two separate commands? What is the difference between update and upgrade? Well, I wanted to show you guys this because this is very interesting and it's good to know the difference between the two. Now, update is meant for just applying security fixes, bug fixes, and performance enhancements for your particular RHEL machine. While upgrade, on the other hand, it actually moves you to a major version of RHEL. So you can actually go ahead, and you're seeing here, I have a RHEL 8 box. I can use the upgrade command to take me from RHEL 8 to RHEL 9. So it's very interesting how that happens. And in order to take you from RHEL 8 to RHEL 9, you have to upgrade all the old packages. So by updating these old packages, it'll get you to a baseline where you're prepared and ready to move on to the next major revision of RHEL. And then at a later time, when you're done updating those packages, you can try to upgrade again and it'll bring you from RHEL 8 to RHEL 9. It's actually a very cool feature. Now, again, I won't bore you guys with watching paint dry or upgrading my systems, either from a major version by using the upgrade command or just by applying updates in general by using the update command. So we'll go ahead and hit no on this particular guy here. And if you guys are interested in doing that, go ahead and give that a shot. Now, moving along here, let's do some other quick commands. Let's talk a little bit about listing what is available. So we can actually use the sudo yum command followed by list to see what available packages we have. And of course, we do that by typing in available afterwards. And this is going to generate a lot of output for us. So I'm going to go ahead and pipe that into a less. And let's see exactly what we have available to us. And of course, it actually shows you here the available packages that are available. That is your left column, followed by the repository, which is your middle column. And then, of course, followed by the version number, which is on the right, which is your last column. And as you can see here, there's a bunch of packages, different packages that are available to us. And of course, you have the repository it's located in. And then lastly, of course, as I mentioned, the version number. So pretty cool on how you can see that. All right, so let's quit out of here. So next item on the list, and we're going to work on the same thing we were doing before with the list command. We were to do a sudo yum list, and we give it a install, and should I say installed with an ed, this will show us all the packages that are installed on our particular RHEL box. And by the way, I should have piped that into a less because there's going to be a lot of output, but you're starting to get an idea now of how this all works. And you can actually scroll here and see all the packages that I have installed on my machine. And pretty cool, by the way, because we actually learned previous commands. Remember how I said before that you can count how many packages you have quickly? Well, sudo yum list installed. Hey, all the packages we have installed. Pipe that into a word count, and then we're going to count the lines, the number of lines. And what do we have? 1,496 total packages currently installed on this machine. Pretty cool. Now, something else that we can do with listing packages, let's do sudo, and by the way, I'm elevating my privileges here as always with sudo, but sudo yum list updates. Let's take a look at what updates are available. And there you go. You get a whole list of what updates are available for your particular machine, which is kind of similar to what I was showing you before, except this time you're only seeing a list and not given an option of whether to install it or not. Versus before, when you were doing the Yum update, it's as if you're saying, hey, I want to go ahead and update the system, and it actually lists all the packages it's getting ready to update. But this actually just shows you what updates or what packages updates are available. All right, so interestingly enough, as I talked about before, you want to be able to work with repositories. And one of the ways that you can work with repositories, and I'll show you how to take a look at them. We really won't dive too much into it, but let's take a look at what repositories are available. And again, repositories are where the packages live. So if I were to do a sudo yum repo list, we can see all the repositories that are available for us. And you see here, and I think you've seen it before, when we are looking for updates, we're installing packages, it was looking in the Azure repository, it was looking in the Apple repository. And then the other two repositories that are very, very important, especially when you're talking about Red Hat Enterprise Linux, you always have an app stream and a base OS. Those are your two repositories that house all your packages from a RHEL perspective. And by the way, as I mentioned before, if you don't register your RHEL machine, base OS and app stream, they're disabled by default. Now, real quickly, you can actually use the yum command in order to be able to disable and enable those repositories that you see here. Let's say I don't want to continuously look at the Azure repositories because that stuff is specifically to cloud technologies, and maybe I'm not working with cloud and I just want to get rid of that. Again, you can use the yum command in order to be able to enable or disable repositories. So I can do a sudo yum -- disable repo followed by the name of the repository. So I'm going to just go ahead and copy and paste. Now let's run that command. And of course, as you know, your teacher always makes mistakes too. I forgot to put the repo list before the disable repo. Let's try that again. So sudo yum, let's put a repo list here, space -- disable repo followed by the name of the repository, which is Azure -CLI. Let's hit enter on this. And as you saw, it went ahead and removed the repository, and we don't have that Azure CLI there anymore. These are the three repositories that we have. So if we actually start searching for packages or we start updating packages, whatever that looks like, you can go ahead and see that it will only look at those three repositories. Now, let's say, for example, you were interested in enabling a repositories. Well, guess what? The same command, except we take out disable. So -- enable repo, and you run this command and it'll go ahead and put that repository back in there for you. So let's run it real quick. And there you go. Azure CLI is back on our enabled repositories. And whenever we are working with packages, it will go ahead and search that repository. And that repository, of course, has your packages. All right, so we definitely learned a lot about repositories. I'm not going to dive too much further into it, but the next item real quickly on the list is let's take a look at our history and how we can use our history in order to be able to go ahead and take a look at what we've done in the past. So I can use the command sudo yum history to see what we have. And you can literally see here a whole history of everything that we've done. And it's interesting because it goes back to even 2023. Geez, this virtual machine is kind of old. But anyways, you guys can see a list of all the things that I've been using Yum for, especially to install packages, remove packages. Everything is listed right here. And it even gives you the timestamp of when that happened. So when you guys are interested in capturing logs or maybe seeing what people are doing. So this is a great way of seeing, hey, when was a package installed? When was the package installed? And in fact, actually, I'm saying when it was installed. In reality, you can see here that it also shows you when I remove things and I install things. So it gives you a little bit of both, actually. Now, here's a cool little trick that I'm going to leave you guys with before we close this out. You can actually go into the history and you can roll back items that you've done before. So if we take a look at what we have here, if you look at number 20, we have here that we installed HTOP. Well, what is HTOP, you may be asking? Well, if I go under activities and we go to show applications, here is HTOP. So I can go ahead and run that, and you can see here that it's a colorful way of showcasing all the different processes that are running, our memory, the load on the system, all kinds of good stuff, right? So let's close out here. So you can actually leverage this command in order to roll back things that you have done previously, and you use the ID in order to do that. Now, if you're asking me, well, what the heck am I saying? Well, let's take this example and let's roll back ID number 20. So meaning that number 20, I installed HTOP. So in theory, if we roll back that command, we are actually removing HTOP. So let's show you how that works. So I can go ahead and do a sudo yum history. I'm going to say undo and then followed by the ID, which was number 20. So let's run this command and we should see that it removes HTOP. And there you go. It is actually telling us, hey, do we want to go ahead and actually remove that HTOP package? And this is the part where you can say yes or no, and it'll go ahead and actually do that, reverting that install that you're seeing there. So let's go ahead and hit yes, so that way you can see that working. And there you go, HTOP was removed. So if I go under activities and show applications, HTOP is no longer there. So if I were to go ahead and do sudo yum history, we can see that the last history that we did, or the last command that we did, was undo number 20, and number 20 was to install HTOP. Now I'm curious, let's do undo number 24 and let's see what we get there. So run the same command as before, sudo yum history undo, and let's undo number 24, and 24 is history undo of 20. So essentially it's like I'm saying, hey, you know what, go ahead and install HTOP again. Kind of funny when you think about it. So let's go ahead and remove 20 and put 24, and let's hit enter here. And by the way, let's put a -y for yes, and let's run this so that way it doesn't ask me and it just continues doing what it needs to do. Cool, and just like that, that HTOP should be right back on our machine. So let's go to activities, show applications, and there it is, HTOP again. And you can see with that yum history command, you can actually undo things, including undoing and undoing. Kind of interesting there. All right, guys, so that is a little deep dive into yum. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully you liked it. Now stick around for our next episode as we're going to focus on DNF. And DNF is going to be the latest package manager, of course. But for now, I just wanted to show you guys a little bit on yum and kind of the evolution from RPM to yum. And then lastly, where the next video is going to take us is going to be specifically on DNF, where we currently are today. So anyways, guys, again, as I always say, if you enjoy my videos and they're helping you out a lot, make sure you go ahead and give me a like for the video as it helps the channel grow. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications so that way you're notified when I upload new videos to the channel. And lastly, of course, go ahead and share this with a family member or friend who's learning all about tech, or maybe they might be interested in learning about tech. So 2 things before I let you go, guys. So number 1, as always, if you want to talk to me about tech or you just have any questions in general, links will be in the description to my calendar. Feel free to book time on my calendar and be able to speak with me. And then second thing, of course, if you don't want to wait for my next video, YouTube thinks you'll like this one popping up on screen. So go ahead and give that one a watch, and I'll see everybody in the next one.